I'm really pleased to welcome Dan from Hive today. Welcome, Dan.
Hi there, Dan.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about Hive and yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the group director of a company called Hive Business. So we set up Hive actually 10 years ago in June. So we were part of a kind of previous company that worked with dentists, chiropractors, local SMEs, and basically a big proportion of the leadership team thought we could do a much better job if we focused our energies in one industry and figured out how we could really add value to it. So there were kind of a few key areas that we're looking at, which was growth, profitability, kind of tax strategy, and wealth building. So the way we structured the company, broadly speaking, was we've got a full service marketing agency, a consultancy company, which is kind of my day job, and an accountancy firm in tax planning and mergers and acquisitions that sit within that. And what we've been trying to do for the past decade is to essentially help dentists get more from their efforts. And that is, we do work with associates as well, but practice owners, have really felt the squeeze, particularly through the past 5 years. And we wanted to kind of be helpful on their pathway to getting more commercially from dentistry.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And so you work on the consultancy side yourself. So what do you do as a consultancy then? What's
So the way we tend to work is to kind of go through a diagnostic process where we analyze the business from its leadership team, its commercial model, its kind of growth strategy. So that's internal and external. A bit about their team structure, and then figure out what the best recommendation is for them moving forward. And often that is then delivered by the marketing agency and the accountancy firm. We've kind of set ourselves up to not we don't believe there's any panaceas in business. Dentistry, when I first got into it 12 years ago, was fairly soft. Like a strategy for a dental practice was kind of just investing in Google marketing, and you were going to go up with the rising tide as GDP spend went radically up on dentistry. It's definitely a different beast at the moment, and there's not one simple answer, and there's not the same answer for different people. So it's really important to understand what you're trying to achieve from dentistry, and then we can help you figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
Um, I think we were chatting before this, Dan, and I said one of the only low-hanging fruits I can really see is actually switching the plan provider to you, because it's simple, obviously, but it's an immediate commercial win that's easy to understand. Every other commercial win kind of has a long trail on it. So, for example, it's more or less always better for a dental practice owner to be incorporated. But there's about 20 hurdles that you might have to jump through to get there. So there'll be a conversation about the NHS, and there's no kind of slam dunk along the way. If there's another business partner involved, it adds greater complexity because you're managing two people and you're trying to get this complicated process done. The end in sight might be a 50 grand saving a year, but
Yeah.
it's complicated and it's quite hard to execute. And actually, most accountancy firms kind of aren't set up to do that because they're not incentivized to do it, essentially. So if you imagine a traditional plan care list, what's the incentives in there? Kind of do as little dentistry as possible,
Yeah.
more or less. And this isn't a critic. This is just how the industry works. Accounting, especially, is set up to deliver your compliance to you. The
Mhm.
minute you're talking about true kind of significant tax savings, it's really complicated. They are out there, but it's a long process that requires a lot of engagement and a lot of good communication to get the upsides. So
Yeah.
that's definitely, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get better at that and to speak in a kind of better language that everyone can understand. And yeah, I mean, it kind of spins me out a bit, but everyone who joins Hive, we can find a tax saving for.
Yeah.
So there's just hundreds of thousands of pounds being wasted out there each year. So
Yeah, well, yeah, I think one thing you said there a bit earlier on, which I would imagine sounds really interesting to people, is the fact that you don't have one prescriptive model that you're trying to fit on, bolt onto every practice to do a certain thing. It's about, because there are so many variables involved in running each individual practice. As you say, the owners, the staffing, the location, the state of the building, the size of the building, any park. Oh, there's so much stuff that goes into it that it's really important, I think, that, if you are looking for an accountant, that they don't just come with a spreadsheet, and actually what they want to do is get under the skin of your business and how you're operating, which that sounds like what Hive is.
Yeah, I think the way we look at things is there's no kind of definite prescription when you turn up. But the principles are always rock solid. So the principles are exactly the same as they were 10 years ago as they are today, which is, we're very kind of early saying that NHS lists quite often aren't profitable. They're really, really not profitable today. So our messaging for that kind of 10-year period was almost keep your NHS lists if you're planning and selling in a few years, because it is valuable. It's not profitable, but it's valuable. But broadly speaking, if you're kind of in it for a longer term, you don't want bad revenue in your business and the issues that come along with that. And that was very difficult. And I still don't think people fully understand it, that if, something might be paying you 30 grand a month, but if it's costing you 35 grand to service it, that's not good. And it is complicated because it's kind of slightly, it's maths beyond the binary. So it's quite straightforward to understand if your plan's costing you X a month, if it's now costing you half X, that's an upside, and they can hopefully get their head around it. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll switch, I'm sure. Whereas when we're saying that the way you're deploying resources on this revenue means that it's actually costing you 5 grand a month, that's going out of the business. It's complicated because they go, well, if the 30 grand wasn't there, there'd be a 30 grand hole, and it's not necessarily the case. So again, it's kind of complicated, and we're trying to demystify that. And it was interesting when we first went into the lockdowns, because I met, so many new dentists, because everyone, myself included, the first thing you do is kind of cut all your consultancy fees, because how can you advise a business when there isn't a business to advise? So we kind of just met loads of people, and it's interesting the relationships that have emerged through that. Because there was definitely a trend of people that had been around for a long time and kind of said, I was here in 2008, I'm just going to get my head down, I'm going to do some work and get through it. And that might have been okay if they exited in the 2 years following. There were people that were saying, oh, really feel like I need to get a hold on my business now. Yep, okay, kind of furlough is going to artificially kind of inflate the market for a period of time, but I'm sure you've worked on the road a lot. If you have 3 Red Bulls to make it home in the evening, there's a price to pay afterwards. So people that engaged with that knew, like they knew that. So they were going, I have to build a kind of solid ship. And there were some people that kind of just were a bit kind of freaked out by it and went into ostrich mode. So what we're seeing now is, the rubber's met the road. The rubber probably met the road 2 years ago, to be honest. And whereas owner-managed businesses in dentistry were extremely kind of lucrative, even if you weren't running it as a business, they're just simply not now. So we don't think people should panic at all, but you should almost take a step back and figure out what you want, and then you can figure out how to proceed. We touched upon it when we were speaking before, that I think people are now going, crikey, okay, well, I just need to grow my revenue, which is probably true, but they're going, right, so I'll just sell a load of aligner treatments or something, which might be okay, but like, remember, that's what everyone else in the market is thinking of doing as well. So why not so the cost to acquire it's really high, and it may not be inherently profitable, the treatment in itself, but you probably won't have the data to ratify that. So it's like, it might look good. We sold, 3 cases and that brought us 15 grand in or whatever. But that 15 grand again might have cost you more to serve. So the way, it's a bit like, anyone can rock up to a park run on a Saturday morning and get round and it'd be okay and them not risk injury. It's kind of like in 5 years, we've gone from a park run to an ultra marathon. And it's like, no, you do need to think about your diet. You do need to have a training regime. You do need to think about your kit. So it can still be achieved, but you have to be engaged with the principles now. You can't ignore it, in my opinion. And I think that's, are you seeing that from your kind of client base, that it's kind of, there's more pressure out there?
Yeah, I mean the pressure is huge, and you've got a group of people who are solely focused on their NHS contract and whether that's profitable,
Mm-hmm.
and actually forgetting about the private side and to review the private side more. And I think there is an assumption that just because it's private revenue that it's profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really interesting. Actually, you do a bit more of a deep dive on the profitability of the private side. But I think so there's a practice I saw in Leeds last year that they did a review of their NHS contract, and she was shocked that when she sat and worked it out, actually she was losing 40 quid every time she did a crown.
Yeah.
That was just like a bit of a light bulb moment for her. That actually, do you know what, I need to make a fundamental change. But how because you mentioned there people who are looking at exit strategies and looking at selling. How are you finding things in? Because obviously previously there was a huge amount of money attributed to a sale price with an NHS contract.
Mm-hmm.
How much are you finding that map changes with a move to a private or moving away from the NHS?
So everything to be considered in isolation, but generally,
Yeah.
whereas if you had a big NHS practice 4 years ago and you
Mm.
went to market, we work a lot with Christie and Co. They could tell you what that business was going to go for because
Yeah.
there was going to be multiple buyers. It was going to be very competitive tendering. Now there may be a purchaser. Yeah, I suppose I should delineate between the independent and corporate market. So in the corporate market, there is way less demand for NHS practices.
Mm.
Broadly speaking, we know about the big Bupa divestments. It's difficult to get dentists to work associate dentists to work for UDAs, and you can't grow that revenue because that is contracted to the government. It's not
Yeah.
it's not something you can scale. In the independent market, there's still demand. There's definitely still demand, broadly speaking, because it's not particularly financially well educated. So they'll be the person saying, "Well, there's 30 grand coming in a month. There must be some profit in there."
Yeah.
There won't be, but the bank will lend based on that. The bank will
Yeah.
lend off them basically subsidizing the business. So it would be, if you were looking to sell in the next year, I'd be like, probably keep this, like may as well keep this on.
Mm-hmm.
Anything longer than that, I'd be really serious about what you want your business to be, because also if you're running a mixed practice, it's very incongruous to the patient. So it's like, well, you'll either be kind of selling Burger King to people that are coming for, steak free, or vice versa, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that will, the customer is getting more and more discerning, and we're all wanting to spend less and less on things because everything's getting more and more expensive. So all of these market forces are occurring, which require the practices to be better, which is kind of good in a way because it's actually saying if you are better, you'll benefit disproportionately from it. The other change I'm kind of seeing from a valuation perspective, and this has been quite significant, is the desirability of specialist practices. So basically, that they've gone down they've gone down in value quite a bit because their financial performance has gone down. And particularly if you look at ortho, for example, the GDP is doing loads of aligners. Why would they refer them out now? So
Mm.
they've got this business that never had to innovate or figure out how to find its own patients, just delivered a good treatment, which is fair enough. Now going, oh, hang on, I haven't got my patients anymore and everything's more expensive. What do I do? There's not a simple answer to what they should do. It's still definitely worth speaking with us because there's better and worse answers. But I would say if you've got a general practice that does a lot of high value treatment and you're looking for the maximum value, there's a lot of value in actually building up your general list as well. So it's pretty cheap to acquire a general patient. So the best I've seen per lead is £3, but that's really good. But it should be less than £25 for an inquiry, and you should be able to get about 30% of those on board. So if in year one you can make kind of £500 to £1,000 from that patient, that's the average that you should be achieving for a private practice. but then retain them and put them on a plan, for example, then that might be £250 a year or something. So you're hopefully delivering profitable treatment in year one, but then also kind of adding to the future value of your business. And any purchaser coming in, independent or corporate, will like a plan, because it doesn't have the same limitations as an NHS list, but it is reoccurring income.
Yeah, great. So in terms of obviously you go and would do an initial assessment and come up with a load of recommendations, etc. But it sounds to me like you also then go beyond and then start reviewing actually what traction their marketing's getting, what income it's generating, that type of thing.
Yeah, well, it kind of depends what people want. So there's definitely a route. So the biggest part of our business by country mile is the accountancy business, broadly speaking, because everybody needs an accountant, and most people want to save tax. So and there's also the element that if consultancy or marketing have a client in the same geography, well, you can't have a client in the same geography essentially, because you can't do it. Basically, you'd be competing clients against each other. So it's inherently limited. Whereas our kind of scalable business is the accountancy firm. So that's probably often the first port of call, unless there's like an immediate need. So quite often people will come in kind of saying, right, what do I do? Or I'm exiting in 3 years. And then it's very much down the diagnostic route, and we will appraise their marketing and growth systems. And it's pretty hard to do, I'll be honest, because it's very easy to do externally, but unless the practice, and it can't just be the principal, is engaged in tracking data and honestly feeding back on that data, it's very difficult to advise. So my clients that I've worked with for 8+ years, it's pretty easy to roll up to a meeting and we can look through the numbers because they know the importance of the numbers, and we say, great, okay, let's do this, do that. A lot of marketing agencies will sell you that they'll do that straight away. An external agency can't do that for you. Like you have to buy into this as a business. So that kind of flushes out whether or not we kind of continue working with them on the growth basis if they really want to change their business or not. I think what we find is people really understand what we're talking about in the moment, but then they go back to their business, which is a busy place. They've got a full-time job. It's set in its ways, and it's really hard to change things. So that, so then we meet the next month and they go, oh, I did speak to the manager about doing that, but they said we can't do it now because of these reasons. And I say, like, your business gaslights you. Like, it's not that she's lying or there's not, or that the reasons aren't true. It's just that you've got to kind of push them to one side and force the change through. And it takes ages to turn an oil tanker. But once you kind of got it in the groove and moving forward, the rewards are fantastic. But it's hard. Like, it's for example, when someone buys a business, we'll work with them to the point of acquisition, kind of give them a handover and say, right, go out into the wilderness and see what happens. And it's, between 12 and 24 months before we re-engage, because they've just got to get in there and sort a load of stuff out, fight a load of battles, learn a load of things, because the change can't come quickly.
Yeah, very much. And that's one thing I say to principals all the time when they're asking me, how do I grow plan? How do I grow plans? Is you've got to focus on it. If you're not on, if you're not talking about it every meeting or every weekly meeting with your team, and you're not looking at how many patients you've got on plan, this is important, this is why it's important, it's never going to grow. And as you've just pointed out there, practice managers have got so many plates to spin that that there's always something else to do. So unless the principal actually makes it a real focus, the change isn't going to happen.
Yeah, what I might, if it was decided that growing plan was important, it's quite a nice straightforward priority. So I'd make one person responsible for reporting on it. Doesn't necessarily have to be a manager, and just say close of play Friday or close of play Saturday, depending on, or Sunday, depending if you might be 7-day dental. I need you to kind of send round a voice note summary of all the activity we've done this week and how many people have signed up to the plan and who did it. So really, really low friction to do it. Very, very easy for you as a principal to monitor if it's been done or not. And then you can say, oh, that didn't get done, so we haven't got our attention on it. can I confirm that you're going to do it close of play on Friday again? So it's a really light touch, but to influence the business, it's quite the impact could be transformational, but it's about kind of removing friction from doing things.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah. Yeah, I'd echo that definitely, and I'll be making that point in my next meeting. So yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, look, I'm conscious of time, Dan. So we've been going to add lots of really useful stuff there. Is there other specific types of clients that you'd want to speak to, or is it?
I think it's kind of like there's probably, if you just want to talk about tax saving, we can help everyone who's watching this now, even if there's associates in there. I don't know if there would be or not. We can definitely help you save tax. So get in contact if you want to reduce your tax bill. If you're kind of taking a kind of longer term view in any way, I'm very happy to speak with you as well. But I appreciate that you can understand all the logical reasons to want to change, but unless you're in a place where you've kind of, it might be having the energy to do it or something, the motivation to do it, then maybe you don't want to change at this point in time. That's cool as well. Equally, I'd be happy to speak to you as well to help you suss that out. So more or less anyone watching this, be really keen to have a conversation and talk about how we might potentially help you.
Great, thank you. Well, listen, either reach out directly to Dan at Hive, by all means contact ourselves, whether it be me or one of my colleagues in the BDM team, and we'll certainly put you in touch with Dan and his brilliant team. So listen, thanks for your time, Dan. Really appreciate it, and I hope everybody out there has enjoyed listening to it like I have. So thank you very much.
Cheers, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Take care.